Wednesday morning in Gaffney, South Carolina. Odessa Culpepper is hanging laundry on the line behind her house, and her hands know the work well enough that her mind has gone somewhere else. It is replaying the same conversation for the 5th time this week. Scripture gives 8 things to do about that. 8 commands, spread across 1,000 years of the Bible. Almost nobody finishes them, and the one that gets skipped is the last one. She keeps a clean house. She scrubs the kitchen floor, bleaches the counters, washes every dish before bed. And the Bible looks at a life like that and puts the word unclean somewhere she has never thought to scrub. Unto the pure, all things are pure, but unto them that are defiled and unbelieving is nothing pure, but even their mind and conscience is defiled. Defiled. The Greek word behind it is a dye word, a staining word, the color a fabric takes on when it goes into dark water and comes out belonging to it. That is what the text says has happened to the mind, and a stain like that recolors everything that passes through. A silence starts to read like rejection. A slow answer starts to read like proof. And Scripture does not leave that as an observation. 8 times, across the Old Testament and the New, God gives a direct order about the mind. Search it, capture it, create a clean heart, renew, purify, gird up. Those are imperatives, the same grammar as go and stand and do not be afraid. Somebody is being told to do something. So be clear about what this is. The word detox here comes straight out of that verse. The mind is called defiled, and defiled things get cleansed. It is the Bible's own picture, not a relaxation exercise, not positive thinking, and not the practice of emptying the mind, which Scripture never once commands anywhere. One of these 8 fits in a single sentence, and you can pray it out loud before this video is over. Another one contradicts what most people assume a clean heart even is, because the man who prayed it, after the worst thing he ever did not ask God to wash his heart. He asked God to make him a different one. Stay until the 8th. It is the one almost no Christian does, and it is the only one that keeps the other 7 from coming undone by the end of the week. 8 commands, 1 process. The order is part of the argument. The second one does not work before the first, and none of them holds without the last. They run from the Psalms to the epistles, from a king on his face to a fisherman writing to a church under pressure. It starts with the hardest one, and the hardest one is not an action. It is an admission. Unto the pure, all things are pure, but unto them that are defiled and unbelieving is nothing pure, but even their mind and conscience is defiled. The common mistake is calling it something softer, tired, stressed, a rough season. Those words let a person wait it out, and a stain does not respond to waiting. Notice where the text puts the problem. Not on the circumstances, not on the people who caused it, on the mind and the conscience, which are the 2 things a person carries into every room they walk into afterward. The conversation replayed at 3 in the morning, the grudge rehearsed in the shower, the prayer that starts with God and drifts in under a minute to the person who hurt you. Say what it is. The mind is defiled. That is the whole of the first command, and nobody gets to the second without it, because the second one is an inspection, and no one opens the door to an inspector while insisting the house is fine. The second command was written as a prayer, which means it is the one you can obey today. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there be any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. The Hebrew verb David reaches for there is kakar. It is not a looking over word. It belongs to mining, to breaking rock and going down after something that will not come up on its own. David hands God the pick and tells him to dig past the part David himself can see. And notice what he is not doing. He is not confessing a list. He is asking to be shown what is not on the list yet. That is the step you can take right now, in the room where you are sitting. Say it out loud. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Nothing about that requires you to already know what he will find. Because the moment he shows you something, the third command is what you do with it. The third one changes what a thought even is. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations, and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. Paul is writing in the language of a siege. A stronghold in that world was not a mood, it was masonry, a position built up over years, stone by stone, by people who intended to hold it. A thought you have rehearsed for 11 years is not weather passing over you. It is architecture. And read what Paul actually orders. He does not say make the thoughts stop coming. He says take them prisoner. The thought still arrives. What ends is the negotiation. Odessa's hands pin a wet shirt to the wire, and the wooden clothespins go on one at a time, and her mind is 3 states away winning an argument that ended in 2019. Her body is in the yard, nothing else is. The argument is the trap. The capture is the way out of it. And once a person can hold a thought still, they run into the reason the thoughts keep being made, which is the 4th command. And the 4th one is not about thinking at all. The 4th command goes underneath the mind, to the thing producing it. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. The Hebrew is bara. It is the verb of the first sentence of Genesis, and everywhere it is used this way, the one doing it is God. People make, people build, people repair. This particular verb belongs to God alone, which means David, on the far side of the worst thing he ever did, is not asking for maintenance. He is not asking for the old heart cleaned up. He is asking for one that did not exist a moment ago. And the ordinary objection to that is, surely something that large requires something large from me. There was a man named Naaman, commander of an army, decorated, feared, and leprous under the uniform. He went to the prophet expecting a spectacle. A hand passed over the wound. A word shouted, fire, maybe. What he got was an instruction to go dip 7 times in the Jordan, a brown, ordinary, unimpressive river he could have found on any map. He was furious. He had rivers better than that at home. He turned and went away in a rage, and it was his own servants who caught him on the road and asked him the question that saved his life. If the prophet had told you to do something great, wouldn't you have done it? He went down 7 times. He came up clean. The creating was never his to do. The only thing that ever belonged to him was getting into the common water. That is the middle of it. Everything up to here tore something down. Everything after here builds. And the second half is a chain. The 6th command has nothing to stand on until the 5th has done its work, and the 7th is the one that decides whether any of it survives the week. Most people run the 5th command backwards. They rearrange the furniture in a condemned house and call it progress, a better morning routine, a swapped habit, a new plan taped to the refrigerator. The surface gets disciplined, the foundation keeps rotting. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good, and acceptable, and perfect will of God. The Greek is anakainosis, and English loses the size of it. We use renewal for a magazine subscription. This word means made new, new in kind, not new in appearance. Paul is not describing a house that got painted. He is describing one that got rebuilt, while the address stayed the same. And the word he chooses for the change itself, transformed, is the same word the Gospels use for the mountain, where Christ's face changed in front of his friends. The outside was different, because of what was already true underneath. So the prayer moves. It stops being help me manage these thoughts. It becomes give me something else to think with. That is a bigger request. It is also the only one the verb allows. The 6th command is the one that sounds like a repeat and is not. And be renewed in the spirit of your mind. Paul wrote that to people who were already in Ephesus, converted, baptized, in the pews. And between telling them to put off the old man and put on the new, he puts this: go one layer under the mind itself. Here is what that layer is. Before you choose a reaction, something in you has already reacted. The name comes up on the phone, and your stomach moves before you decide anything. The car door slams outside, and you know whose it is, and your shoulders answer. That is not a thought you had. That is what was waiting to have it. The fifth command deals with what a person thinks. The sixth deals with what a person is already braced for. And this is where the quiet time stops being a box that gets checked. Same chair, same Bible, same 20 minutes. And it becomes an encounter, because what is underneath it changed. 6 done, and the 7th is where nearly everyone stops, because the 7th asks for the one thing the contaminated mind has been protecting the whole time. Draw nigh to God, and he will draw nigh to you. Cleanse your hands, ye sinners, and purify your hearts, ye double-minded. The Greek is dipsychos, 2 souls, not confusion, division. One soul reaches for God in the morning prayer. The other keeps a hand on the grudge at the kitchen table. One surrenders the outcome out loud. The other keeps a plan folded in a back pocket, in case God turns out not to come through. James is not describing a weak believer. He is describing a door. A mind split down the middle has an opening in it that never fully closes, and the stain that got cleaned out in the first 6 commands walks back in through the gap. So name the thing your second hand is holding. The fear you will not put down. The resentment you keep rehearsing, because rehearsing it feels like justice. The backup plan running quietly alongside the prayer. Name it and set it down, not because you have finally become strong enough to let go, but because James says the drawing near is mutual. You move toward him, and he moves toward you, and his hold on the thing is steadier than yours ever was. Friend, if you have felt pulled in 2 directions at once, and taken it as evidence that your faith is failing, that is not what it is. It is a diagnosis. James put the treatment in the same sentence. 7 of these are done, and this is the point where most people close the video feeling lighter and lose the whole thing by Friday. So I left something in the first pinned comment below. It is called The Watchman's Guide, and it exists for exactly this stretch, the part after the relief, when the work has to keep going without the video running. It is already there, and it is already yours. Almost no Christian gets here. They recognize the stain. They pray the inspection. They capture a few thoughts, and something loosens in the chest, and they stop. Not out of laziness. They stop because they feel better, and feeling better looks exactly like arrival. But the text never treats the cleansing as the destination. Wherefore gird up the loins of your mind, be sober, and hope to the end for the grace that is to be brought unto you at the revelation of Jesus Christ. The word is anazonimi, and the ancient world is what makes it visible. Historians tell us that men in the 1st century wore long tunics that fell loose to the ankle. Before a man could run, or fight, or work a field, he had to reach down, gather the loose fabric, pull it up, and tuck it into his belt. Until he did, the garment that covered him was the thing most likely to put him on the ground. Peter takes that motion and puts it on the mind. Gather the loose ends, tuck in the trailing thoughts. Because a clean mind left loose picks the dirt back up before the week is out, and a clean mind that is fastened can be sent somewhere. That is the 8th. It is the one nobody talks about, and it is the one holding the other 7 in place, because the detox does not end in calm, it ends in readiness. 8 commands, 1,000 years apart, from a king's broken altar to a fisherman writing to a church that was about to suffer. What do they have in common? The world cleans a mind by adding more content, more technique, more noise laid over the old noise, in the hope that the new noise wins. A podcast to cover the rumination, a playlist to fill the silence, a screen for the gap where the thought used to sit. God cleans a mind by releasing. Every one of the 8 takes something out of the hands. The denial is released, the hiding is opened, the argument is arrested, the old heart is handed over, the patched-up version is abandoned, the reflex underneath is surrendered. The second soul is named and set down. The loose ends are gathered and tied. Nothing was added, everything was released. And a mind that has let go of what it was carrying fits back into small things. The cup of coffee on the kitchen table, noticed for the first time in months. The window at first light, before the phone comes on. Somebody's name rising in prayer. Not rehearsed, not forced, just rising the way steam comes off a cup. Not because small things have power, because a contaminated mind is too loud to fit inside them. It crowds out the cup. It talks over the name. It fills a room before anybody walks in. A surrendered mind is small enough to be where it actually is. The peace of God does not usually arrive as an event. It arrives in the size of the things a person had stopped noticing. The stain is named. The depths are searched. The stronghold comes down. The heart is created. The mind is rebuilt. The reflex is surrendered. The two souls become one. And the loose ends are tied. Odessa Culpepper is standing in the same yard, same fence, same wire, the same wooden pins warm in her hand. This morning, she is not 3 states away. She is not winning anything. She pins a white sheet to the line, and for the first time in years, she hears it. The wind, snapping the wet cloth against the sky. The sound of a mind that is finally standing in the yard where her body has been the whole time. You do not need all 8 today. Start with the first one. But do not stop the moment you feel better. A garment is no use to a runner until it is fastened. A mind does not feel the wind until it is tied. Which of these 8 have you never done? Say so in the comments. That is usually the one to start with. And if what you are carrying needs a doctor or a counselor, keep walking with them. This is scripture, not treatment, and the two were never in competition.